morning and welcome. Dr. James Beckett Sports Card Insights. Thanks sponsors, Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com, Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, Huggins Scott Auctions, and Upper Deck, Panini, and Topps. Today's episode is outtakes from Hobby Hotline again, a little bit on a roll. I've been on a couple times in a couple weeks. And this came up a conversation which was, I think, interesting to me and I hope interesting to you, kind of comparing the Dallas card shows, which have really come on strong in the last couple of years. But now up to, I think, 6 times a year of the big one, 700 tables. How does that compare to the National? It's different. We get into the argument that it's not bigger, it's not even better in one sense, but it's really good in the way it does it. And the National is a completely different thing. Just like the Summit and the Mint Collective and every regional card show has some advantages. The National is just so huge, and we talk about how big it is. So thanks Brad and Herman and Adam for stimulating the conversation. Again, go to Hobby Hotline, wherever you want to listen to podcasts, or YouTube. It's Hobby Hotline, and this was from the episode as indicated the first Saturday in July. So thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoy this conversation. I certainly did. I go to every Dallas card show now. If you ever want to bump into me, I'm around, as well as being at the National. I've been at every National and plan to be as long as I am able. So thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you again tomorrow, but here it is.
National versus Dallas card show size. There's an article that came out, quote, where the National is just under 600 dealer booths. And those in Dallas know Kyle's show has gotten to 700 booths. So the National Card Show versus the Dallas Card Show size, everybody keeps telling me whenever I walk into the show floor, I'm going to be overwhelmed. Is it really going to be that overwhelming as opposed to the Dallas Card Show? I've been to SEMA. I've been to CES. I've been to Las Vegas trade shows many times. So I don't want to get this big hype and then we show up and go, really?
Brad, I think the National will be a little bit more like SEMA and CES for you. Those really big shows are at another level beyond what Dallas is. You don't just look out, you look up. It's almost like you can see the panorama of not just line of sight, but you're seeing that way beyond you. The National is a way bigger footprint. And you'll notice that when you walk in, that you can't even see the other end of the room. Admittedly, Dallas has more than one room, but in the big room, you can take it all in at one glance.
That's true. Okay?
But you can't do that at the National. There's a lot more verticality. The other thing is, I think they're counting differently. There's tables and there's booths. They're not necessarily the same thing. Even if Kyle has 700 tables, and there may be 600 table holders at the National, but they're more like booths. You're going to see a much bigger footprint there. And that doesn't even count all the corporates, the autograph area, the breaking pavilion. There's a lot of stuff there too. And then lastly, Adam, be careful what you wish for, because fanatics could say, you know what? We'd like to have more uniformity in the shows. We're going to be a major sponsor of any show that wants to do it our way, where we have some preeminent presence. And so Atlanta, you guys need to work with Dallas, who need to work with the people in Chicago, whatever. And if you don't, we're going to do it. And that's scary because the promoters are fiercely independent. Kyle has been successful, I think, in large part because he's done it his way.
Yep.
The National is run by a committee. So there's too many people to please in many cases, but Kyle does it his way, and he's done a nice job. But the guys in Chicago, Steve Menzies in Toronto, they do it the way they want to do it, and they do it well. So a little more uniformity, unfortunately, Adam, that could be brought on by fanatics, and they're big enough to enforce and say what's good for our industry is that we have a higher caliber of shows. And we're going to put marketing dollars toward it. Do you want to cooperate with us or do you want to compete with us? So again, scary thought.
Yeah, I can just see somebody trying to tell Kyle what to do. Kyle's very independent, very strong-minded. If he thinks something's going to work, he's going to do it. The venue holds about 100,000 in Atlantic City. 3 interesting stats. 50.3% are first-time attenders. 37% plan on staying all 5 days, and 47% of people are traveling 200 plus miles to get to the National. That screams volume as opposed to what everybody thought, which was this was going to be an East Coast heavy National That's an extremely interesting statistic. And this is just exit polling that they did last month. But I find it very telling that you're getting more first timers than last year and more people coming from different areas than last year.
It's not popular to say this, but there are people that don't want the Atlantic City show to be as successful. And they are called Midwesterners and West Coasters. Because if Atlantic City is successful, and I think it will be, then that shows that needs to be an important part of the rotation. And like I say, the West Coasters and the Midwesterners would love to just see it in Chicago or someplace that's more accessible. Atlantic City is not just on the East Coast. It's hard to get to. And there's nothing else to do there except prominently gambling. So I think there's some people that don't want it to be as successful because they don't want to go back there. And frankly, the previous Atlantic City shows were not great. The average Chicago show was way better than the average Atlantic City show. But it needs to be national. I've said that. It needs to move around. We need to get it on the West Coast, too.
You can bring it to the Kay Bailey Hutchinson Center. I don't care what they say.
They had 55,000 people there last weekend for the Collector Expo or whatever it was, which was the Comic-Con kind of clone.
I was there. I was actually doing a podcast there. You can do it there. You can do it in Anaheim.
To John Keating's point, he and I have talked about this. He knows the venues that are out there. But just using this Dallas experience from last weekend as an example, admission was way higher than it is at a card show. Table and booth prices are much higher. Autograph prices are much higher. Everything is 2 or 3 times as expensive. That's why the national committee is saying our dealers are not going to go for that. They're not going to pay table fees that are twice as big. And yet, as you saw, there were 55,000 people showed up down there paying big bucks. Yep. Dealers did really fine. Cosplay
was huge.
Celebrities who are signing their own autographs for big bucks. It proves that it can work, but the national is run by the dealers who want to pay a certain amount. And so that prohibits the rental of those much more expensive facilities. And John Keating knows that and will never go back. You can't double the table fees one year and then go back the next year. They're in a comfort zone of what works, and they're going to stay there, probably until there's some competition.
Those of us who won't be making a trip to the National this year, what would be the best way to follow along? I know that as a Hobby Hotline group on Saturday, we're going to hold the Hobby Hotline on the National.
Do they live stream the discussions they do at the table in the Breakers Pavilion?
Yes and no.
Well, some of them are.
They do some.
They're broadcasting from there. But that's static. So, I mean, that's sitting at a table. It's not roaming around.
Right. Yeah.
But some are doing that too.
Yeah. I think it's tough because, like, to be honest, to get the experience, you really got to go to the show, unfortunately. Like, you can follow people who make content. You can follow people like Slabstocks or Sasha T, or people who post YouTube videos that are like vlogs, or like Card Collector 2, or there's hundreds of people that are going to be posting videos. So like you could spend time watching those videos, but I don't think you're going to be able to get necessarily the same experience, unfortunately. One thing I have heard is that you can find some deals on eBay because people are selling, but people aren't necessarily looking on eBay to buy. So like some of the deals slip through the cracks because people are buying at the show and they're not even checking eBay. So that's one thing that I personally haven't done that. So I don't necessarily know for a fact that that's true. But from what I've heard people talk about, you probably can find some deals on eBay just because the normal crowd of people who would be buying in heavy volume on eBay are at the National buying, and they're not buying on eBay.
Save up your money so you can go the next year. The next year is going to be in Chicago. It's going to be more accessible. If you can't go this year, it is a poor substitute to just stream. I mean, you're going to get some content there, but when you walk in, you're going to look up and you're going to look out and you can say, wow. Brad, if you don't say wow, I'll be surprised. And you can tell me about that. Having said that, it's hard to capture that in a video stream. Anybody that's listening, save up your money so you can go to a national. It's a bucket list experience, and you'll probably want to go every year, as I do. All the people are in the room. All the cards are in the room. And the opposite of Adam's point is that, yes, there'll be less people looking at eBay. But on the other hand, there's going to be deals on the show floor that are cheaper than what eBay ever is. And you can see it and buy it right there because it's Wednesday night or Sunday afternoon. And so there are deals to be had if you're knowledgeable at the National, and it's just a great time. Save up your money and go.
When do I start looking for hotels for next year?
They don't even release them for a while, the special deals.
I want to make sure that I go to Chicago. Because
Brad, here's the thing. This is great. It may turn out to be like Animal House, which if you ever read the book, it doesn't end very well. But, the whole idea of an Airbnb, which some of the guys are doing, that could blow up, and not in a good way. It also could be a highlight of the whole experience. And so I can see more of that happening, of the trade nights and Airbnb groups getting together and having a very unique vacation / card show experience. I applaud that more so than you can get a hotel room anywhere.
Okay. All right. Well, there may be another Hobby Hotline Airbnb experience next year. I don't know.
It's cheaper than a hotel in most cases.
It's much cheaper than a hotel because we're doing the Hobby Hotline now. I'm already planning next year. Flights from Dallas to Chicago are much more affordable and easier to get to Chicago than flying into that place called Philly, then going to AC via train. I can't wait. Hopefully I can go a day earlier and maybe catch a Cubs game or a White Sox game or something like that, and then do some more experiences. That's part of the thing that I'm really waiting for. We were talking about maybe doing a casino one night for a couple of hours, just kind of the guys just doing something different, and the cookouts and the hanging out after, and not doing the big parties. We're just hanging out and having just dude time. So that's what I'm looking forward to, other than looking up. Because at the Fan Expo, that was the one thing that I did notice, was that at a typical card show, everything is flat. Everything is like level, and you can look out over at every typical card show and see the other side of the wall. When I went to the Fan Expo, you couldn't see past the first booth because they took everything and they went straight up. And it was just, at first it was very, okay, now wait a minute, where's what? And it took me a minute to kind of get oriented to like, okay, this is over here, this is over there. So the looking up aspect, I can completely understand. Any final comments?
Hey, Brad, don't ever ask a person older than you if they have final thoughts. It's not nice, but so not a final thought, but I'll just say thank you